All right. Hey, everybody. This is Mike. I'm just going to do a quick little tutorial for everybody on Out of the Park Baseball 26 and show you how to do a scoreboard, to create an not interactive, but a real-time updating scoreboard in your park if you happen to create parks for the game in SketchUp and you haven't figured out how to do this yet. Maybe this will be a little easier. I know there are instructions from Joran Guderian from Out of the Park Developments on how to do it, but it took me a little bit while to figure out how to do it and to be able to update my parks for it. So what I'm going to do here is just run through how to do it, and I'm just going to show you real quick. Maybe hopefully it'll help. And what I'm using here is my version of Miller Park that I created in SketchUp a little while ago. Actually, I'm pretty proud of it, but unfortunately for me, the game version is a little bit better than this one. But what I have here is the scoreboard that apparently was at Miller Park at some point. And I'm going to basically kind of replicate this using one big scoreboard and showing you how to separate all the different pieces of it. So one thing to understand, and if I'll open up my, let me see if I can get the score, I'm going to bring over the instructions from the Out of the Park forums. Joran Guderian did provide, there's a, in the mod section for 3D models here, how to add live scoreboards. And this is instructions. And for me, it was a little tough to figure out at first. It took me a while. I had to consult some other people. And he also uses examples from Blender, which is further adds to confusion for those of us that aren't 100% that really just don't know Blender. And I certainly cannot figure that out for the life of me. But anyway, so he has his instructions here. This is that does have some good information on the layout of the text file that's needed, the SL file, what I call it, and how to lay out the actual scoreboard, and I'll show you that, and also the numbers that assign to the widgets that you're going to use. So there's a number of widgets here, as you can see, line score, current count, that you can display on the scoreboard, and you use these numbers in that text file, which I'll get to in a little while. But I just wanted to kind of do a step-by-step on what I've done, right? So I pick a park. I pick Miller Park, for instance. Okay. So first thing I do is I find the scoreboard that I want to use to create. Now, there's two ways you can go about doing this. Now, I'm assuming that you have some knowledge of SketchUp, but so you could either take the face of the scoreboard here, the texture of the scoreboard. You can blank that out and create. What I would do is blank this out and just create a blank texture. It's a unique texture and use that for the scoreboard. Or what I like to do is I'll just actually put a new texture over. I'll create like a covering for this, which I've done in most of my parks, because I like to keep that the old texture in the background just in case I wanted to use it in, say, an older version of a game. So what I do is I'll just find the top left corner and the top bottom right corner, and I'll draw a little. Let me just view the edges here. Sorry. I'll go to the corner here and I'll just kind of come out, and I usually come out like 9 inches, and I'll just create like a little bit of a base for the new scoreboard. So 9 inches here. So now I have, and then what I'll do is I'll draw a rectangle or a square or whatever shape it is, take it on top of that, and you can see it covers that scoreboard, right? So now I have a blank face, and I reverse it so I have the white face facing the front, facing out all the time. Now, the first thing I do is I will make this a unique texture. Now, you right click on this, and I'm using SketchUp SEP 2017. By the way, it's still a really old version. I assume that the newer versions have the same thing. So, I apologize if this is old and maybe you can't follow, but this is what I use. So, make unique texture is the option, and then this is important here, but we can get back to that after. This is the dimension of the texture of this file here, this shape. I'm sorry. So that's 1024. Everything's going to be 1024 by something. 521 happens to be this. So you can either jot this down, or as I said, I'll show you in a second how to get that number again. So you create the texture. And what it does is, and over on the right-hand side, I'm going to go to drop down under the materials and go to in model. And what it does is it creates a new material called material. It's just material here. This is it. This is the material it created. So what I do is click on the material, go to find this material. I know it's confusing because there's a bunch of material, 1, 10, 12, 50, whatever. But this first one here, and then what you do is you want to rename this to OOTP scoreboard. The first scoreboard you use, if you have multiple ones, you use different numbers. Scoreboard underscore 0 is the first. That would be the one you use for the first scoreboard. Hit enter. And now that material, this is a unique texture called OOTP Scoreboard 0. Now, simple enough right now. And then, so we have that. And now what I'll do is I want to export this OBJ from SketchUp into the file, which I have on my Miller Park folder. So I open this up. That should export. Hopefully it does, because I actually had to download this because I didn't have it on my new computer. So that's going to export the textures. Give it a second until it finishes. Now, if I go here, well, I'm going to go to my folder here, and I should have, if I go to Miller Park 2020 textures, I should have the scoreboard somewhere, which I don't see it. Where is it? OOTP scoreboard 0. Oh boy. I don't see it here. Let's see. That's not a good sign. I was worried about this happening. Okay, let me just try that again. Hold on a second. Let me just make sure. Actually, I'm going to try this. Let me copy this. I might not have opened the file from the right location. So 1 second. Copy. Let me close this out. No. I'm going to go back to my Miller Park in ballparks. Okay. Open this up. Going to go here, paste. So we have that right back to where we were. I'm going to do this again. Export the textures. Thought I had all this set up, and I'm not good at using these videos, so please bear with me. All right, let's try this again. Yeah, here we go. So now I must have been in the wrong location. So if you see in the textures, here's the OOTP scoreboard 0. Now, if you need to find out what the space, if you need to find out what the size of that, you just hover over it, and it'll show you it's 1024 by 521 JPEG file. So that's important. Now, what you want to do here is also you want to make there's based on that instructions which I showed you. There's a file here with you basically make a blank text file, and you can either copy this to start with. This is a .sl file, so you'd want OOTP underscore scoreboard underscore 0.sl. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one from my park, one of my other parks, and one of my many parks. So this is just going to be scoreboard underscore 0 at .sl. You can see it's an SL file. So I'll just copy this to my Miller Park. So that's in the main Miller Park directory. That's where that belongs. Now I want to edit it, and I'll bring that over. And you see that we have a series of numbers here. Now this is the coordinates for how your scoreboard is going to show up in the game. Now, looking at the instructions, so the 1 is the file version. I'll have it over to the left here. 1024 is the X coordinates, the width. So that's 1024 was the actual coordinates. If I go back to this, 1024 by 521. Now, the thing about this, and I'll show you in a second, is you can make these coordinates larger. You can expand them by multiples of 2. You can multiply by 2 and make the resolution of this twice as big if you want, twice as that high. So this is a 1024 by 136. I can change 1024. Just have to have commas after them. So this is 521, which is on the file. And what I want to do, because this is a pretty big scoreboard, right? This thing is going to have, if I'm going to recreate this, I'm going to have 1, 2, 3 widgets going across here, and one widget going across, which is the line score. So I'm going to have the lineup, I'm going to have the player name, and I'm going to have the field plan here for as far as just to try to recreate what you see here. And then I'm going to have the line score at the bottom. So we need to kind of piece this together on the text file here. So what we do is I'm going to multiply this by 2. I'm going to say this is going to be 2048 because I want the extra, what do you call it? Some leeway to play with, when you're actually trying to space these out across the scoreboard. And then 521 times 2 is 1042. So, and then, okay, so now let me go back to the instructions, and you see the next set of numbers, 0, 0, 0 is the default color. Now, if you had a background that color you were trying to match up with, like for instance, the Fenway Park Green Monster scoreboard, say it was green and the whole, and you wanted to match that up, you could actually get the RGB values for that scoreboard, and you would in the scoreboard that you create here will have that match that background color. In this case, I'm just going to leave it as black because that's what we have here. The area we're working with is only black, so we're not worried about that. The next one is the amount of layout elements. Now, this is where you figure out, you plan your scoreboard. You say, okay, I'm having on the scoreboard here, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 elements. I have the lineup, the player, the field plan, and the line score, right? So that's 4 elements. So I'm going to put a 4 here under the RGB value. Okay. And then the next line under that, let's see, is the order of the layout elements. So the order underneath that is going to be the order that you're going to be presenting these on the scoreboard. So the first element is going to be the lineup. That's going to be the lineup for whoever's at bat. So I'm sorry for switching screens all the time. So the lineup for everybody, for a team at bat is number 8. So I'm going to put the first thing is going to be 8, going left to right. We have 8, comma, and then the next one is going to be the player. I'm going to pick out the player. It just says player here. It just shows the player picture with the name and the position, I believe. So we're going to use that. So we'll do 5 going across. And then the next one is field plan. That's going to show the picture like this with the field and the players in the field. That's going to be number 4 based on the instructions here. Comma, and then that's going straight across, and then you go down. So then the next one will be, the final one will be the line score, which is 0. So I'm just going to put a 0 here and a comma. And so now, after that, we just get to the point of designating the coordinates for each one of those widgets. So the first thing we want to do is we see here that there's 3 widgets going across. So there's 2048 pixels to play with here. So what you do, we can do a little math, and you can say, all right, well, you can divide 2048 by 3, or you can see here that the left and the right widgets are a little bit, they're much thinner than the one in the middle. So we could say the middle one would be 1024, and then the other 2 could be half of those, the rest of it, which is the other 1024. So half of those, so that would be 512 each. So the left one would be 512 wide, center one would be 1024 wide, and the right one would be 512 wide. So the first thing I'm going to do for the first one, for widget 8, we're going to do so the first number here is and I'll show you so the first number is the X minimum. So that's the top left part of basically the X from left to right, what the minimum number is going to be. That's going to be 0 because we're starting from the far left. So starting from here is 0. And then the next number is the minimum of the Y, which is the top going up and down. So we're also starting from the top. So we're starting from the top left corner, and that's going to be X0, Y0. And then the next one is where that's going to stop. So what the X coordinate is, the X maximum. So that's going to be, we said 512. We want that one to be 512. So that's going to be 512, and then there's a comma, and then the final one is the Y maximum, which is how far down it's going to go. Now, going top to bottom, we see that these first three are going to be going almost all the way down. I would say, 80% of the way. So we'll say 80% of the way, and then from here we'll say, all right, 1,042. We'll just give it 800. We'll say 800 is close enough, 80%. So we'll say 800 is going to be where it's going to stop on the Y. So this first one is going to be 0 to 512 on the X side and 0 to 800 on the Y side. So we just do a comma there, hit enter, and then we create the second one, which is the bigger one. Now this second one is going to start where the last one ended on the X. So the first X minimum is going to be 512, and the Y is still going to be 0 because it's still starting from the top, right? So comma 0, comma, and then you start with the X maximum, which is going to be 512 plus 1024. So that's 1536. And then the Y maximum is going to be 800 again, because we're stopping at the same spot that the first one stopped at. And then you do that, hit comma, hit enter. And then the final one on the right-hand side is going to start at 1536, because that's where it's using the, it's starting right here at this point. And then the Y start point is also 0 again, because it's starting from the top. And then the space after the comma. And then you do the final, the 2048 is where it's going to end, because that's the end of the scoreboard on the X side. And then 800 again, because that's still stopping at the near the bottom, but not at the bottom. So then a comma, and then we have the first three done, and then we do the final, the line score, which is going to be, it's going to start from the far left, which is 0. That's where the X starting point is. The Y starting point is going to be different. This is going to be starting at 800. That's where the first three ended from the top to bottom. So 800 is going to be the starting Y point. And then we have the stopping, the X, this is going to go all the way across. So this goes from X, from all the way from 0 all the way to the end. So that's 2048, comma. And then the final Y position is going to be the number of the Y, the 1042, the second number there, the final. That's the final number, and then that's it. We save that as X. So we save that on the file. This is your coordinate. This is your scoreboard coordinates. Now, so we have the SketchUp. Let me just unhide that. I think we're done with SketchUp anyway. So now we want to go into the game. Now, let me just get out of here. So I've already loaded this up. So what I have is an OOTP26. I have a fictional league I've been using to test all these. So what I do is I just go to the edit ballparks. I pick a park. I'll pick the Cavaliers Stadium. It doesn't have any pictures. I go to 3D model. I already have this. So if I go to 3D model and I look at this, there we go. So that configuration file basically sets up that whole scoreboard to show in the 3D model. There's your lineup at bat. There's your player. There's your field plan. There's your line score. And it looks pretty good right there. Right now, the only thing left is to test it in the game. So I save the camera. What I like to do is save this camera as create a scoreboard. Just so I can kind of check it out in the game, because this would be big enough to see during a game. Some of them are scoreboards are a little bit offset based off of whatever camera angles you're using. So pretty much I save that scoreboard. Now I go to a game. And I have this New York Cavaliers game I happen to have right here as just a quick start of the game. Here we go. There's the scoreboard, and we have the lineup here. That's for the start. This is for the team at bat. There's the player that's going to be up, and and then there's the field plan, and then here's the line score going across. Now, if I go half an inning at a time, there's the next home team's up. There's the Cavaliers, and there's the next guy. And you can see the scores changing as I go half inning by half inning, and that's it. Pretty much pretty simple. Now, one last thing to check. Now, when you do if you're a creator of the parks and you know about the 3D crowds, let me go back to my Cavaliers Stadium. as you can tell, when you do a OBJ export, you have to reset the crowds again. So that's one less step you have to do. So I go to my Miller Park, go to the XML file, and let me just take a copy of. I'm gonna, this isn't anything to do with the scoreboards. This is just getting the park to show the 3D crowds again. So just for the interest of completeness, let me see if I can just do this really quick. I don't know. I haven't done this. Oh boy, I'm trying to find the fan entries here. This is quite a big park to do, so there's a lot of textures in this one. Scoreboard. There we go. Here's the attendance. So there's one. Just get the level 2. This is 3. And this is 4. This is nice and tidy. Some of my other parks are a little bit messy. All these things are all over the place. I have to search for them. Okay. All right. So let's see that. Now we go back to we don't have to go into a game again. We can just reload this again. And there's our crowd. We have our 3D crowd. We have our scoreboard ready to go. Pretty simple, right? I mean, the main thing is just getting the feel for the coordinates and what you want to do on a scoreboard. Now, if you wanted to do it just a scoreboard, I'll show you as an example. If I want, I'll just show you this as an example now. Miller Park. Instead of that, let me show you a simple one I did. Well, let's see. This is when I did 3 scoreboards. So I had scoreboard 0, scoreboard 1, scoreboard 2. Now each one of them, this one only had one component. So this is 1024 by 100. Had one component. All it was the line score, and all I had to do was say, for the line score, all you had to do was just make it the same size as the main document, as the main file, right? So 1024 by 100. One number of components, 0 for line score, and then 0 for XY, and then 1024 by 100. That was simple. So that's easy. If you want to do, you can also break these up in one by one. You can, if I wanted to just remove this, if I wanted to make one scoreboard that's like, that looks, oh, that's the wrong tool. If I wanted to make one rectangle here, one rectangle there, one rectangle across, and one rectangle here, and call them 4 different scoreboards, 4 different textures, you could do that. But this was obviously a lot easier to do it this way. It's just a little bit of math, a little bit of figuring out what the coordinates are. So I hope this helps. If anybody's having problems, I know I had problems, and I had a lot of help from Flying Canuck and Eric Jaffe actually helping me out trying to do this, so I could kind of cram and get these stadiums all done and ready for the go live of the new game. So here, so these are all parks like an OOTP. Let me just see what other ones I have as an example. Here's Yankee Stadium, 1952 probably. So here, as you can see here, this one here, I have 3 scoreboards. I have one line score goes across this section, and then here and these sections with the lineups, the home lineup and the away lineup, which are 2 different widgets. So that's simple enough, right? The 3 scoreboards, one thing for each, one component for each scoreboard. Very simple. These ones are actually, the X coordinates were lower than the Y coordinates were the 1024. X coordinate was the lower value because it's it's taller than it is wide. So anyway, there's a lot of stuff here you can play around with. I hope this walkthrough helps you, because I know reading some of these instructions wasn't the easiest one, especially when you're talking about using Earthfan View and using Blender. It's not for most of us that use SketchUp. It wasn't the most intuitive thing to read. So I hope that's about it. I just wanted to kind of come on and create this video. Hopefully you find it useful. And thank you very much. I will talk to you all soon. Let me just figure out how to end the StreamYard. Oh boy. But thank you so much. And here we go. And we'll talk later.